all. Yeah, Keith speaks, but I more so welcome the conversation. Today I want to talk about a pressing issue, though, that has been gaining more and more attention in recent years: mental health. The rise in mental health issues is undeniable, and we are increasingly becoming aware of just how widespread and severe they are. From anxiety and depression to more severe disorders like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, mental health is at the forefront of our global conversation. However, while mental health issues have been rising steadily, it's crucial to understand how the society we live in may be contributing and even exacerbating this crisis. First, let's look at the numbers. According to the World Health Organization, over 264 million people worldwide suffer from depression, making it one of the leading causes of disability. Anxiety disorders, which are the most prevalent mental health issues globally, affect over 300 million people. These figures don't even account for the growing concerns around suicide rates, especially among younger populations. The suicide rate in young adults in particular has been steadily climbing, with the U.S. seeing a significant increase in suicide rates over the past decade. So what's behind the rise? While genetics and biology do play a role, the societal factors at play are just as important, if not more so. One of the most significant factors in the rise of mental health issues is the pace at which we live today. Our world is faster than it's ever been. Technology, especially social media, has contributed to this speed. Information is constantly flowing. We are always connected. The internet has revolutionized the way we interact, but it's also increased the speed of our lives and, unfortunately, our mental strain. The pressure to keep up with everything from the latest trends to political and social news has led many people, especially young people, to feel overwhelmed. The expectation to be constantly on or to maintain an active online presence leads to feelings of inadequacy, loneliness, and anxiety. The idea of constantly performing and measuring one's life against others' curated images of perfection can be incredibly damaging to one's mental health. Moreover, social media amplifies the comparison culture. When you scroll through Instagram or Facebook, you're often met with the highlight reels of other people's lives. This can leave some feeling inferior or anxious about their own lives. The comparison of your day-to-day struggles with the idealized versions of others' experiences can create an environment ripe for depression and anxiety. The connection some feel through social media can paradoxically lead to greater isolation and loneliness. Some feel disconnected from the reality of others' true lives and their own. Another aspect of modern life that has exacerbated mental health issues is the pressure some face in their professional lives. The economic landscape has shifted dramatically in recent decades. Gone are the days of long-term job security or stable middle-class wages for many. Instead, people are facing rising costs of living, stagnant wages, and job insecurity. The gig economy has created a more volatile job market where workers are constantly uncertain about their future and employment status. This instability can be incredibly stressful and anxiety-inducing. Additionally, the work-life balance has shifted dramatically in recent years. The expectation to work long hours and remain always available to employers has blurred the line between professional and personal time. Many people feel the weight of expectations placed on them, and this stress often spills over into their personal lives. The inability to fully switch off has led to burnout, exhaustion, and a feeling of being trapped in a never-ending cycle of stress and pressure. Historically, human beings lived in tight-knit communities where support systems were built around family, friends, and local groups. There was a sense of belonging, of people looking out for each other. Today, however, many people are living more isolated lives. Urbanization has led to the breakdown of these traditional support systems, and for many, family connections have become more distant or fragmented, even non-existent. This loss of a strong sense of community is compounded by the rise of individualism in society. While individual achievement is often celebrated, the focus on personal success can undermine the sense of solidarity that once existed within communities. People are often left to fend for themselves in an increasingly competitive world, and this individualistic mindset can contribute to feelings of isolation and disconnection. Furthermore, as families become more dispersed geographically, people often find themselves far from traditional support networks. This lack of proximity to close family members and friends can increase feelings of loneliness and alienation. As well, society today is built on a foundation of consumerism. We are constantly marketed to, told that happiness and fulfillment can be bought through products, experiences, or lifestyles. The pressure to acquire more, look better, be more successful can lead to chronic dissatisfaction. People begin to measure their worth based on material possessions or external validation, which is inherently fleeting. This consumer-driven mentality, coupled with the rise of social media, leads to a cycle of constant comparison. We're told that happiness can be found in the next purchase or experience, but that satisfaction is always temporary. This breeds a sense of dissatisfaction and emptiness that many people find hard to shake. The constant bombardment of advertising, coupled with unrealistic portrayals of beauty and success in the media, can create unattainable standards. For many, the gap between their real life and the life they see portrayed by influencers or celebrities can seem insurmountable, contributing to a sense of inadequacy. Now, one of the biggest challenges in addressing mental health issues is the stigma that still surrounds them. While there has been progress in recent years with mental health awareness campaigns, there remains a deep-seated reluctance to talk openly about mental health. Many individuals feel ashamed or embarrassed to seek help, fearing judgment or rejection from their peers, family, or even their workplace. This stigma is rooted in societal attitudes that often equate mental illness with weakness. People are told to pull themselves together or just get over it, which invalidates their struggles and prevents them from seeking the help they need. This silence can perpetuate the problem as people suffer in isolation rather than reaching out for support. So what can we do to address this rising mental health crisis? It starts with recognizing that mental health is just as important as physical health, and we must give it the same level of attention and resources. We need to break the stigma surrounding mental health and make it easier for people to seek help without fear of judgment. There is also a need for a cultural shift. We need to challenge the societal pressures of constant achievement and unrealistic expectations, and instead prioritize well-being, connection, and community. We must focus on slowing down and reintroducing a sense of belonging, whether through stronger community ties or more authentic relationships. This will help people feel supported rather than isolated. Another essential change is in how we view work and productivity. We need to reimagine work-life balance and ensure that people have time to rest, recuperate, and prioritize their mental health. Economic security and job stability are essential for alleviating stress, so advocating for fair wages and job protections is necessary to prevent further economic strain on mental health. Finally, the role of social media must be addressed. While it can connect people, it also has a dark side that contributes to feelings of inadequacy and loneliness. Social media platforms must take responsibility for the impact they have on mental health and consider implementing features that promote well-being over competition and comparison. To conclude, the rise of mental health issues is a multifaceted problem that has been influenced by various aspects of the society we live in. From the pace of modern life to economic pressures, consumerism, and the loss of community, these societal factors have compounded the challenges individuals face in maintaining their mental health. However, by recognizing these factors and advocating for systemic changes in how we approach mental well-being, we can begin to reverse the trend and foster a society where mental health is given the care and attention it deserves. But now, let's view this from the other side. Specifically, I want to challenge the commonly accepted narrative around the rise of mental health issues, particularly in the context of modern society and the role of the social networks. While many have pointed to the growing prevalence of mental health struggles, I would argue that we are facing a different problem altogether. In reality, mental health issues may not be as widespread or as fundamentally rooted in biological or psychological factors as we've been led to believe. Instead, many people are choosing to isolate themselves, disguised behind the screens of social networks, and the consequences of this behavior are being characterized as mental health problems. At the heart of this issue lies one of the most paradoxical elements of modern society: social networks. Social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and others are designed to connect us. They promise to bring people together, to foster a sense of community, and to facilitate the exchange of ideas. Yet, in practice, social networks have become one of the biggest sources of isolation in today's world. People increasingly find themselves scrolling through media feeds for hours on end, often in search of connection, validation, or distraction. However, what many fail to recognize is that this kind of engagement is not genuine interaction. It's a shallow imitation of connection. People may have hundreds or even thousands of friends on their social networks, but how many of those relationships are meaningful, intimate, or fulfilling? Rather than fostering true face-to-face connections, social media encourages a curated and often inauthentic representation of life. The more time spent online, the less time spent in real, tangible relationships. The sense of isolation that many people experience is often a result of this disconnect between virtual and real-world interactions. People are spending more time behind screens, creating a false sense of social engagement while missing out on the deeper, more meaningful connections that are essential for mental well-being. In recent years, we've seen an increasing tendency to label almost every form of discomfort, stress, or anxiety as a mental health issue. From mild feelings of sadness to occasional stressors, many of the challenges people face are being classified under the umbrella of mental health disorders. The reality, however, may not be as dire as it seems. Instead, these labels could be a reflection of a society that has grown accustomed to avoiding discomfort and dealing with difficult emotions in healthy, productive ways. When we look at the issue from this perspective, it becomes apparent that mental health diagnoses might sometimes be a convenient way to explain away normal human experiences. Life is hard, and we all face moments of uncertainty, stress, and emotional lows. This is a natural part of the human condition. But by categorizing these experiences as mental health problems, we risk overstating the issue and potentially reinforcing the idea that something is inherently wrong within us, when in fact, we are simply experiencing the ebb and flow of life. Moreover, this cultural diagnosis often ignores the role that social isolation plays in exacerbating these feelings. People turn to mental health professionals for help, but what many are really seeking is not necessarily therapy or medication, it's connection. When social media has replaced face-to-face relationships, the root of the problem isn't mental health at all. It's a deep underlying loneliness, the result of choosing isolation in an increasingly connected world. The most glaring issue with social networks is their ability to facilitate isolation under the guise of connectivity. As technology has advanced, we've been told that social media is a bridge between us and the world around us. Yet it often does the opposite. With the rise of online interaction, real human connection has become more scarce. While many social media platforms claim to bring people together, the reality is that often they promote surface-level relationships. When people interact with others online, they are engaging in a highly controlled and curated environment. People carefully select what they share, often presenting only the most polished, idealized versions of their lives. The constant bombardment of these ideas, images, and of success, beauty, and happiness leads to a comparison and self-doubt. Instead of forming genuine connections, some find themselves increasingly isolated, stuck in a cycle of comparison and validation seeking. The impact of this isolation is compounded by the fact that many people now spend more time online than they do in person with friends and family. The result is a growing sense of disconnection and alienation from the real world. The more people engage with social networks, the more they withdraw from the people around them. While they may have hundreds of virtual connections, the lack of authentic human interaction leaves them feeling lonelier than ever. Another key aspect of this trend is how digital platforms provide an easy escape from confronting personal issues. The allure of social media is that it provides an instant distraction from the discomfort of reality. When you don't want to face difficult emotion, social media provides a quick fix, a dopamine hit in the form of likes, shares, and comments. However, this temporary escape comes with the long-term consequence. People becoming so accustomed to turning to their devices to avoid discomfort that they become increasingly incapable of handling real-world challenges. Social media becomes a coping mechanism, but not in a healthy, productive way. Instead of learning to sit with discomfort, people turn to their phones for a constant stream of distractions. This avoidance only perpetuates feelings of isolation and anxiety, as individuals fail to develop the emotional resilience needed to cope with real-world issues. In a sense, social networks have become a means of digital detachment. People are detaching from their communities, their families, and even themselves, all in the name of staying connected online. Instead of fostering a greater sense of belonging and emotional support, Social media drives individuals further into themselves, creating a vicious cycle of isolation. The pressure to constantly seek validation through likes, comments, and followers has also contributed to the sense of insecurity that people feel. Social media platforms have made self-worth contingent on external validation, on how many people approve of us, how many people like our posts, how many people follow us. This external validation becomes addictive, but it is also deeply unreliable. People begin to believe that their value is determined by how they are perceived online, and when that validation doesn't come, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, depression, and anxiety. Social networks have turned into a marketplace of self-worth, where people commodify their personal lives in exchange for approval. This constant search for validation reinforces the idea that we are not enough as we are, without the need for external confirmation. When people turn to social media for validation, they often find themselves facing an overwhelming sense of emptiness. The likes and comments may provide a temporary boost, but they do not address the deeper, more fundamental needs of human connection, self-acceptance, or emotional fulfillment. So what is the true solution to the rise of mental health issues? It's not simply increasing the availability of mental health professionals or handing out diagnoses more freely. The solution lies in real, meaningful human connection. The cure for loneliness, isolation, and dissatisfaction isn't found on social media platforms. It's found in the relationships we build face to face. We need to rediscover what it means to be present with people around us, to have deep conversations, and to engage in shared experiences that foster real, authentic connection. The more we prioritize genuine human interaction and authentic relationships, the more we will see the decline of the isolation that has been disguised as mental health issues. It's about stepping away from the digital noise and learning to engage with the world and people around us in a more real and meaningful way. By choosing real connections over virtual validation, we can combat the root cause of many of the feelings of isolation and anxiety that have been labeled as mental health issues. To conclude, the rise in what we label as mental health issues is, in many ways, a symptom of a deeper societal problem, one of isolation, detachment, and disconnection. Social networks, which were meant to bring us together, have instead fostered a sense of emptiness and loneliness. People are choosing to isolate themselves behind the screens of their devices, creating a digital veneer of connectivity while missing out on real human relationships that are vital to our mental well-being. By shifting our focus away from the false narrative of mental health problems and instead addressing the root cause, our growing detachment from genuine human connection, we can begin to heal not just individual minds, but the very fabric of society itself. I want to continue our conversation about mental health, but from a different angle. One that challenges the growing narrative around depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. Specifically, I want to explore the paradox of those suffering from mental health struggles, particularly depression and anxiety, choosing to seek psychological help online or in digital spaces rather than addressing the root cause of their issues through physical, real-world connection. This creates a situation where people are increasingly isolated in their homes, turning to virtual platforms for solutions, yet missing the fundamental need for genuine human interaction, which is often the very remedy for the issues they face. Before delving deeper into the issue, let's first re-examine the broader context around the rise of mental health diagnoses. Over the past several decades, we've seen an explosion in the number of individuals diagnosed with various mental health conditions, particularly depression and anxiety. In many ways, this is a good thing. There's more awareness, more people are able to seek help, and there's less stigma surrounding mental health struggles. But we must also ask, are we overdiagnosing? Are we too quick to label what may actually be common temporary human experiences as serious lifelong conditions? Mental health labels, in a sense, are becoming a catch-all for normal emotional experiences society has trouble dealing with. Life is stressful, challenging, often overwhelming. Feelings of sadness, frustration, nervousness, or even loneliness are part of the human condition. In previous generations, people would have simply worked through these emotions, often with the help of family, community, or friends. Today, however, these emotions are increasingly seen through the lens of clinical disorders. For example, feeling down after a breakup, losing a job may now be labeled as depression, and feeling anxious about life changes may be framed as generalized anxiety disorder. The rapid labeling of these experiences, while beneficial in some cases, can also lead to an environment where normal human emotions are pathologized. People may start to believe that something is wrong with them simply because they feel sad or anxious in response to life's challenges. But the issue here is not that these emotions are inherently harmful, is that they are being treated as if they require medical intervention, which may not always be the case. One of the primary contributors to the rise in depression and anxiety is a growing sense of isolation. Many people, especially in modern societies where digital connectivity is prioritized, are increasingly drawn from the physical world and their communities. Social networks and the internet have become central to people's lives, but these digital spaces often offer a false sense of connection. We may have hundreds of friends online, but how many of them are actual meaningful relationships? Many of the individuals who are diagnosed with depression or anxiety are not necessarily experiencing these issues because of some inherent mental health disorder. They may be struggling with loneliness, a lack of purpose, a sense of disconnection from the world around them. These feelings of isolation can manifest as depression or anxiety, which are often a result of withdrawing from social interaction, particularly face-to-face interactions. We are social creatures by nature, and when we fail to engage in real-world relationships, our emotional well-being suffers. The problem, however, is that social networks and digital platforms, which were supposed to bridge the gap of isolation, are often just contributing to the problem. As more people turn to the devices for companionship or validation, they become increasingly detached from the physical world. This disconnect leaves people feeling even more alone, but it also creates a paradox. The very tools we use to combat isolation, social networks, online therapy, and digital communities, often prevent us from engaging in the real-world connections that could actually alleviate our mental health struggles. Here lies the paradox. While many people who suffer from anxiety and depression are quick to turn to online platforms for psychological support, they often avoid the one thing that could make a significant difference in their lives: a real world human connection. In recent years, there's been a sharp increase in online mental health services, ranging from teletherapy to self-help apps. These services are convenient, accessible, and often anonymous. People can access them from the comfort of their homes without ever having to leave their house or confront the vulnerability of face-to-face interactions. While this digital accessibility is a positive development in some ways, it also perpetuates the problem of isolation. For many individuals, the convenience of online therapy or virtual support groups may seem like an easy solution, but it's not necessarily the most effective one. Yes, speaking with a therapist online can provide some relief, but it lacks the tangible physical presence of a person with whom you can share a space, a meal, or a hug. The lack of physical connection can leave a person still feeling disconnected despite having talked to someone about their feelings. The inability to feel the presence of someone else in the same room can unintentionally reinforce the isolation that many people experience. Moreover, the rise of online therapy also speaks to a broader societal issue: a preference for convenience over the hard work of cultivating real human relationships. It's easier to engage with someone on a screen where we can control the flow of conversation and avoid the awkwardness or discomfort that comes with a face-to-face interaction. However, this avoidance only deepens the sense of disconnection, because we are not truly engaging with others in a holistic, authentic way. Therapy at its best involves emotional exchange, eye contact, and the real-time physical presence of another person. It's through this presence that people can truly heal, find empathy, and experience support in a way that online interactions cannot replicate. It's important to recognize that isolation, which is often disguised as mental health problems, can be healed through real-world connection. While digital tools and online therapy may have their place, they should never replace the need for people to engage in physical, emotional, and social experiences with others. Going outside, meeting friends, spending time with family, volunteering in the community, or even just taking a walk in nature can all have profound effects on mental well-being. For those who are struggling with depression or anxiety, the solution isn't necessarily found in digital spaces, but in breaking the cycle of isolation. Human beings need to interact in person to foster genuine emotional connections. Physical presence provides a level of support and comfort that is impossible to replicate through a screen. Simple, everyday interactions like chatting with a neighbor, attending a community event, or just sitting in the park with others can have a profound effect on one's mental state. Additionally, taking the time to engage with the physical world, whether it's through exercise, nature, or just the act of stepping outside, can counteract negative effects of screen time. For many people, depression and anxiety stem from a lack of movement, a feeling of being stuck, or a sense of disengagement with the world. Moving away from screens and into the real world gives the body and mind the opportunity to reset. What we need is a paradigm shift. While digital platforms and online therapy are undoubtedly valuable, we cannot let them become crutches that prevent us from seeking the more fundamental solutions that real-world connection offers. The digital age has made it easier than ever to avoid difficult feelings and challenges by seeking quick fixes online. But these solutions are often just band-aids on a much deeper issue, the need for human connection. Instead of turning to screens when feeling anxious or isolated, we should prioritize actions that engage us in the real world. It may be uncomfortable at first to leave our homes or engage in face-to-face interactions, but it is in these moments that we find true healing. We need to encourage a culture of human connection, one that values emotional support through personal, in-the-moment exchanges rather than relying solely on virtual interactions. While mental health struggles like depression and anxiety are real, they are often misunderstood, misdiagnosed, and exacerbated by the very tools that were supposed to help us, social networks and online platforms. People are increasingly isolating themselves behind screens, seeking virtual solutions to problems that could be alleviated through real-world interaction and connection. The paradox of seeking help online while avoiding the physical world is not only counterproductive, but it is also reflective of a society that has grown disconnected from the authentic face-to-face relationships that are essential for mental well-being. To truly address the rising tide of mental health issues, we must go beyond digital solutions. We need to reconnect with the world around us, engage with others in meaningful ways, and rediscover the power of real human connection. Only then can we begin to heal the deeper issues of isolation, loneliness, and emotional disconnection that lie at the heart of the mental health crisis. Today I urge you to do something healthy for yourself. Find a friend, one that exists outside of the virtual world. Give them a hug. Tough guys, a handshake, a high five, a pound. I challenge you to have a conversation that exists without emojis. Laugh, cry, breathe. I mean, hell, there's air out there. Walk with your head up. Take a look. I mean, there's a real world that exists outside of your phone.